space. And Adrienne, I'll make sure you get it as well. So we're here for Creative Living Camp, a special workshop. Welcome, campers. And this is being recorded, so feel free to keep your camera off, on, whatever feels right for you. Just know if you do speak into this space, the recording will bounce over to your square. And I'm going to pin Dr. Adrienne McKeon, who is our presenter and author of Spark Genius and Release Your Masterpiece and a whole bunch of other stuff. And if you ever get a chance to listen to this woman read from any of her books, please do. And for now, just enjoy her and everything she is going to teach us. And feel free to use the chat and interact when we're invited to do so. Adrienne.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. This is awesome. So I want to start out with just a question. What is genius? And you can come off your mute and say it out loud or type in the chat, but I would just love to hear, what's your definition? What is genius? What does that mean?
I sort of have two definitions.
Mm-hmm.
And one is like what I grew up with, like someone's really a genius. They're brilliant at one thing, like out of like crazy, amazing at it, like unachievable by mere mortals.
Right.
And then, but what I'm coming to understand is, more that we each have areas of genius. And so it's a much more fluid and inclusive genius. And it's also genius that includes ways that we're not even aware of because of our own limitations in our awareness or consciousness. So there's like the two for me.
So we have magic from Maya. Genius is magic. I love that. So a type of mastery, question mark, from Piper. I love that. Question mark. Marilee, do you want to share your definition of genius for us?
I think anybody can be a genius in thinking of new ways of doing things.
Okay, so genius is like an innovative energy of thinking of new ways to do things.
Yeah, I mean, there are people who just have supernatural intelligence, but I think we all have flashes of genius at times.
Okay,
so that's
beautiful. Thank you. So here's my definition of genius. And this comes partly from Big Magic. Elizabeth knows a lot about that book, and partly just from my own personal experience. I believe that genius is actually an energy, and it's like all around us all the time. And we can tap into it through insights. We can actually get downloads from genius. If you go back to the origins of the word genius, it actually comes from genie, just like genie, right? Genie. And so what this means is that it was originally conceptualized as an external spirit that we couldn't see, but that helps us get ideas, that gives us ideas, that innovative energy that Marilee was talking about, okay? And so a person is not a genius. We get genius and we do things with it. Now, I love that idea of the zone of genius, right? There are areas where we just feel like we get lots of genius and can very easily and with lots of flow make use of the ideas that we get from that genius energy. But I want you to conceptualize for a minute that more in that more magic sense, like Maya's saying, that genius is actually just something that's all around us and that we all have equal access to once we know how to tap into it. All right. So with that understanding, to make good use of genius energy, first we need to become fully aware of it. We need to know where we find it. We need to know how it feels when it comes to us. We need to be able to recognize it. And then we have to intentionally invite it. We have to set that intention that like, hey, genius, I want to dance with you. I've got my dancing shoes on. I am ready for you. And of course, we need to flow with it, not against it, because so much of what we have been taught is that we need to control everything. And so we end up working against that flow of genius. We end up actually fighting against it and judging it rather than just accepting it and allowing it to channel through us. So how does genius flow? Well, it is a natural phenomenon, and so it is a natural process. So to understand it, we kind of have to look at other natural processes like the seasons, the growing cycle, the lunar cycle, the life cycle. Do you hear the common word cycle in all of these, right? This is what they have in common. They are all cyclical processes, and more specifically, 4-part cyclical processes. Every single one of these has 4 parts to it. Now, those parts can be broken down into smaller parts, kind of fractal-like, or we can combine them into larger processes. But the basic kind of chunk of the cycle is a 4-part cycle, which I call the DOER cycle. And we'll get into that in a moment. But I want to talk about what is the advantage of a cycle, okay, that repeats. So nature obviously knows what it's doing. It's been doing this for a very long time, and it works every time. I don't know about you, but in the springtime, I always really look forward to the daffodils. The daffodils are like that harbinger for me of like, aha, spring has arrived. Has there ever been a year where the daffodils just didn't come? Where nature said, you know what? I'm not feeling it this year. I'm blocked. Nope. Them daffodils come every dang year. And so we can create the way nature creates by just leaning into that flow and that cycle and allowing it to just flow through us. Are there any questions on that before I move on to the specifics of the DOER cycle? Okay, awesome. So the DOER cycle, and I outline this in a lot more detail in this book, Spark Genius, Creative Flow Unleashed. I'm actually going to open up this book in a little bit and read some things directly from it. But this is where, yeah, this is where we kind of get into the nitty-gritty of it. So dreaming, organizing, executing, revising. That is the DOER cycle. I will say it again. Dreaming, organizing, executing, revising, and then we repeat. The beauty of a cycle is that it just keeps repeating. So if you missed part of it, if you're like, I didn't really capitalize on that energy this time, that's okay. It's coming around again. You're going to get another opportunity. So when we think about the dreaming part of the cycle, this is kind of the winter. This is the sort of entry point, and this is the emptiness. I say this is the pinnacle of yin energy. Okay, because the cycle, of course, is flowing back and forth through the yin and the yang. And so we're at the pinnacle of yin in the dreaming energy. So this invites emptiness, stillness, quiet, rest, relaxation, daydreaming, just allowing your mind to idly wander. This is the time when ideas come to us because we are fertile soil for new ideas. But only when we have emptied ourselves out do we really become fertile grounds for planting. I just had a conversation with someone this morning about an epiphany they had recently around relationships because they had been unknowingly holding on to this old relationship. That woman was already married to somebody else, right? But they're still holding on to this and going like, maybe something will happen there. I don't know. And so they finally had a dream in which they got that closure. They were able to say goodbye to this woman and move on from there. And bam, like that, next day met someone new. And this happens so often in our lives that we are holding on to something. I do this with my closet way too much, right? I have clothes that I'm like, I hardly ever wear them, but like, I need this just in case, right? Just in case I have this, circumstance in which I need this thing that doesn't really fit me very well and I don't like it that much, but I don't have a better option right now. So I'm just going to hang on to this just in case. No, Teresa just had an experience where she made some stew that was disgusting, and she tried to freeze it and hang on to it. And then she was like, no, release it. Release the shitty stew. You don't need that in your life. Create space for the things that you actually want to invite by releasing what doesn't need to be there anymore. So this is what we're doing in Dreamtime, is just releasing, emptying, 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 and then allowing, inviting, hey, genius, I'm open. Look over here. So to dream effectively, we need to slow down, way down, and stop taking in external stimuli. Just stop as much as possible. I know that is crazy town, given
I'm sorry,
how-
let me mute myself.
I am not able to mute you, Teresa. Can you mute your mic?
I'm trying. My Zoom is not working. It's
Oh.
slow. It's making me restart. And so I'm going to leave and come back.
Okay, doll. Thanks for stopping in. We'll see you in a minute.
I'll be right back.
So this is, I know that sounds like insane in this day and age to stop taking in external stimuli. Okay. But even if it's just for a day, even if it's just for part of a day, even if you just turn off your phone and go for a long walk during dream time, it is really, really important that we not keep feeding in external input and allow the snow globe of our minds to just settle. Because that's when we start to make these unusual, unexpected connections within. This is where insight comes from, not outsight, insight. And it comes from allowing ourselves that space, that beautiful emptiness, to allow those little synapses to go boop, 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 and come up with innovative connections. Otherwise, we're just reconnecting stuff that's already there. We're just rehashing it, repackaging it. We are not coming up with anything really new and nothing really authentic to us. So that is dreaming. Moving on to organizing. This is the yin to yang transition. So we are gently inviting a little more of that yang energy. This is where we get really curious and playful. We are new, we are babies during this time, right? This is the infancy of our cycle. It's like the little sprout that has sprouted up, and we want to provide for and protect that little sprout. Again, that's that positive masculine energy coming in here, where it's like, I want to make sure that this has the best chance in life. And so we want to take all our passion, take all our enthusiasm, we start expanding on this idea. So if we got an idea during the dream time, this is the time where we go, okay, how does this actually apply to my life and to my audience's life? So we start thinking about, how can this actually help us move toward what we want in life, our desires, what we want to create? You'll notice I use the word desire a lot. Just sidebar here, side note. It's because desire comes from the words decidere in Latin, which means of the stars. So your desire is like the GPS signal that leads you to your destiny. I find it really sacred and important to honor our desire. So when I say desire, I don't mean like in a lustful, like, woo, kind of way. I just mean this is the thing that your soul deeply wants and desires. Okay. Let me take a little drink here. So to organize effectively, what you want to do is, when you get that idea, step into the shoes of your ideal audience as much as possible and think, how could this really make their lives better? How can this move them from where they're stuck to where they really want to be? So looking at that journey, and this is a time to really go down the rabbit hole, go deep, start taking in external ideas around this, do the research, find out who else has talked about this, and really just as much as you can, learn everything you can about this new idea, ask your audience about it, get input on it as much as possible. I love walk and talks. where you go on a walk and just talk about it with someone, either on a phone or in person, but just talk about the idea and get it like from here outside of yourself. This is also a wonderful time to do what I call scribble and babble. So you take a notebook and just randomly scribble. And I don't even mean like doodle. I mean just randomly scribble and then talk out loud. This somehow circuits all the ideas that we think we have and gets you down into here and just gets you right to the heart of the matter. It allows you to cut through a lot of BS. This is also a great time to do mind mapping and to do long free writes where you're just kind of pouring things out and letting things come outside of yourself so that you can start to organize them, as the O in organize would suggest. The other thing that happens during this time, like I said, that providing for and protecting, you're looking forward to the next part of the cycle, which is executing. This is where we actually start to get stuff done. And so you want to make sure that you have time for that to happen. Because if you have not created the time and you have not created the space for it to happen, guess what? It's not going to happen. And so what you need to do during this organizing time is making sure that things are going on your calendar and that you are creating a physical space. You are deciding, where is this going to happen, and creating the right physical space for this to occur. So if you are a writer and you like to have a writer's nest, make sure that your writer's nest is all comfy and cozy and you got the snacks and you got everything set up, and make sure there is a door that can close and preferably lock on that space. We need a room of one's own, right? To be able to create freely. Put a do not disturb sign on your door. Make sure that you are protecting that space fiercely. The other thing I really recommend is that once this goes on your calendar, you honor that as sacred. So you're not going to push the snooze button on this. You're not going to keep pushing it off and going, oh, there's other very important, very, very, very important things that need to happen. Very urgent, very important. Yes, yes, yes. We know there's always urgent and important stuff going on, but guess what? If you want to prioritize creativity, then you need to honor it as a time on your calendar and show up for it. Even if you don't stay for the whole time, just showing up and saying, hey, I know that I was going to do this today. I'm going to do something short, something light, something easy, and let that be enough for today. But don't show up. That is the killer. We need to show up for the process and love the process as much as possible. That's the other thing. Really make sure when you show up, and we're coming into executing energy here, when you show up and when you start doing the stuff, make sure it's fun. Make sure you enjoy it, because now you are investing in your future motivation to come back and do it again. Because guess what? If it feels forced and it feels awful and you hate it, subconsciously, you're going to remember that. And you're going to find all the excuses in the world to not come back again. But if you enjoy it and if you love it, then you're going to feel that pull. You're going to feel like doing it. You're going to go, oh, I can't wait. I'm so looking forward to the next time I get to do this. And this brings us to execution energy. When we are executing, we are getting things done. We are ripping off that Band-Aid and doing the stuff. So this invites bold, brave action, forward motion, confident creation. This is the pinnacle of yang. So this is where we're creating without judgment, because we have such confidence that we are exactly where we're supposed to be. We're doing exactly what we're supposed to be doing. And all we're doing is channeling. So it's not even our place to judge it. It's genius's idea. We're just channeling it. And so it's rude for us to constantly be, have this little revisor on our shoulder saying, well, that wasn't spelled right. You cross that out. Okay. The revisor will come next, and we love her and she's very important, but she is not invited to this part of the process. You need to give her a snack and sit her in the back seat, right? She will come in, but right now, this is just pour it out time. Make a giant mess and enjoy the hell out of that mess. Because once you have a mess, you can make something amazing out of that mess. But until you have a mess, you have nothing to work with. You have nothing. And so this is the time when we really want to get into our just do it energy. Anything that we have been avoiding, lean into it. Anything that we have been pulling away from, confront it. This is the time to take that action, whatever that action looks like, and just pour out creative output without judgment. Then we come to revising time. This is the yang back to yin transition. And this time invites reaping what we have sown. So let's say, we became fertile ground, we grew that little sprout, we protected it, it grew into a tree. That tree is now covered in fruit. Okay. We are now ready to reap what we have sown. This is harvest time. And so we're going through and we're grabbing all of what I call the golden apples. So we could be making just about anything, but let's say our audience really loves apple pie. And they've told us that. I want an apple pie. And you go, okay, great. So you're going through and you're finding the perfect golden apples for this audience at this time. Now, does that mean that all the pears and the plums and everything else are crap? No. It just means that they're going to go into a folder. They are going to, stay in stasis for a while until you are ready to use them. Those get processed for use later. And some stuff you just like, hey, that was just for me. Nobody else needs to see that. And that just gets to mulch. It just goes back into the soil as mulch. We're not going to use that for anyone external. That was just for us. And that's beautiful too. That's all part of the process. But those golden apples, that's when we go, okay, so this is what I really want to expand on. I really want to make sure that this is front and center. I call it your storefront window, okay? You are creating a storefront window. Did someone have a question? Okay, cool. You are creating a storefront window where you are putting out the things that is going to grab their attention and make them go, oh, I want more. Tell me more, right? And then you can lead them into your store and show them all the beautiful goodies that you've got. But those golden apples are the things that it's really going to grab them and make them go, yes, this is the core message that I have been needing to hear. So this energy invites reaping, reflecting, rarefying, harvesting, and preparing for use. To revise effectively, step outside of yourself. Again, see it through the eyes of your audience. Get a little meta. Evaluate not just the product, but the process. How did that go? You're going to think about, what can I celebrate? What can I iterate, meaning do differently next time? And how can I integrate this into my process so that it just becomes habit? It just becomes automatic. I don't even have to think about it anymore. And we do that at the end of every cycle before we release and repeat. And then whoop, whoop, the whole thing resets and we start all over again. Now, I use this along with the moon, the lunar cycle. It's just really easy for me to do it that way because then I never have to ask myself, like, what should I be doing right now? I can just look at the lunar cycle and know. So on Sunday, we are coming into a new moon. And so this is that perfect kind of boop, boop, reset time. And so this is the perfect opportunity for all of us to really yin out, allow ourselves to just let go of all of the, the stress and the press and all of that, and just be ready for a whole new cycle. So I really invite you all to do that. That said, I'm going to show you. So we have here what I call the 8 8s, and this breaks this down even further. So we've got dreaming, organizing, executing, revising, but this breaks us down into even smaller kind of chunks that flow us through this cycle. And the reason this is important, we're going to get into this in a minute, is that we all have a sticky spot. We all have a spot where we tend to get stuck, and we have a hard time kind of transitioning out of it and moving through it. And so what we have here, we have contemplate energy first. And that is, again, just that space where we're just dreaming and allowing new ideas to come to us. We daydream, we wonder, we wander. Co-create is where we think about how do the ideas that came to me during contemplate really interact and impact my ideal audience, the people who value what I value, who care about what I care about. Then innovate. This is where we think about, okay, so now what can I create that really helps them to get toward what they want? We come down into generate, and this is where we actually create that thing. Then we collaborate. We reach out to that audience and we say, hey, I made this thing. You want to take a look at it and let me know what you think and get some feedback on it. Then we iterate by taking in that feedback and making changes based on what we've heard. Then we celebrate, because at that point in our cycle, we have done some good stuff. Whether or not we have a physical product to show at the end of that, we have come through a journey, and it is time to celebrate what has been accomplished here. Then we move into integrate. This is where we really think about, okay, we look back on the whole cycle and we think, what did I learn from this? And how am I going to integrate that into the next cycle and bring that along with me? This is where we're going to talk a little bit about the places that we tend to get stuck. So your cycle, I just want to say this loud and clear, your cycle is yours. If anything I say here today does not resonate with you, ignore it, because you know your cycle much better than I do. Now, we all have universal aspects of our cycle, but we are also unique individuals who have our own unique way of interacting with our own cycle. And what works for you works. What doesn't work for you doesn't work. So experiment and discover what works best for you within all of this. The first thing that we really need to do to align to our own individual cycle, energetic awareness. And so this is like a holistic mindfulness. So we're not just noticing our thoughts, we're also noticing our bodies. We are having that somatic awareness as well. So we become extra aware of the feeling of energy blockage. The first moments when that begins to happen, and we feel what I call the stress press. Okay, so we start stressing and then we start pressing on the problem. And what does that do? It makes the problem grow. So what we want to do instead is reshift, just reshift that energy the moment we notice that feeling. So share with me, what does it feel like to you when you start to feel stressed out and like you need to like press on the problem? For me, what I start to notice is I get a little feeling in the pit of my stomach. First of all, I get a tightness right here in my jaw and in my neck. And what I notice is that I start trying to rush through things. I start trying to get it over with and get this part done with. And when I'm doing that, I am not honoring and loving my process. What I'm saying is, process, you're not good enough for me. I want you to be done quickly. And the process gets very insulted when that happens. And so you will find that the more you stress and the more you press, the longer it takes. Whereas if in that moment, we are able to have that awareness to say, hey, this doesn't feel good. This isn't how I want my process to feel. And to literally step away, walk away from it. Then we have a chance for what I call the sacred break. And the sacred break is like the reset button. It's like turning it off and turning it on again. When we take a sacred break, again, we are not taking an external input. This is not where you go and play a computer game or watch a TV show. This is where we're going for a walk, or we're taking a shower, or we're taking a nap, or we're doing some gentle stretching, something where we are getting into our body rather than up here in our head, and physically removing ourselves from the space where we were feeling stressed. And when we do that, we actually allow the right side of the brain to start to light up again, because it gets totally shut down when we're stressed out. It gets entirely shadowed out by that part of your brain that's like danger, danger, danger. And that is all that it can hear, is those danger signals. And so if we're able to relax a little bit, then that creative side of our brain is able to come back and go, aha, we can play again. And then 9 times out of 10, guess what happens? You come back with a brilliant idea that makes it all go like that, right? Just whoosh, you have an insight, and suddenly everything makes sense and you're able to walk away. But the longer we stay in that frustrated state of like, no, I must finish this, it's going to take you a really long time. Anyone experience that? Yeah, absolutely. So I want you all feeling lit up. I want you all feeling enthusiastic and passionate when you are in your flow. And so let's talk about some common ruts and some fixes for those ruts. The DO rut is a really common one. So this is where we kind of loop around and around in the dreaming and organizing space. So it's like, I get an idea, I get super excited about this idea. It's new and it's shiny, and I follow it down a rabbit hole, and then a new idea comes up, and I follow that one down the rabbit hole, and then a new idea comes up, and I chase that one like a little squirrel, right? And we never quite make it to the generation section. We never quite execute on our ideas. So this is a really common one for people who are very intuitive. We are the dreamers, right? And so it can be difficult for us to actually kind of execute on our ideas because we have so many ideas. We are so in touch with genius. It's like it's constantly sending us downloads, and we're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I haven't done anything with the first 5 you just sent me. And so the fix for this, first of all, is to trust your process, right? But also to decide, okay, this idea right here is the one that just intuitively feels like, yes, this is the one that really resonates with me. It resonates with my audience. There might be a new, exciting, shiny thing that comes along, and I will write it down and I will come back to it. But I'm going to commit to this idea and seeing it through. And I'm going to honor it by pouring something out. Even if you decide it's terrible and I scrap it and I'm going to move on to another idea, you allow yourself to pour something out first before you decide that. Something to work with. And then you can decide, does this resonate with me enough that I want to keep working on it, or do I want to let it go? But just keep yourself flowing through, generate before you decide. That's the fix for the DO rut. The other rut is the ER rut. And this is like an ER, right? It's like everything's stressful and exciting, and you're constantly pouring stuff out. You're constantly creating, whether or not you have any idea if anybody wants this, if anybody asked for this, if anybody will use this, right? You're just creating, putting stuff out there, putting offers out there, and never taking the time to ask yourself or to ask your audience, is this really resonating? Is this helpful for you? Getting the feedback you need to know whether or not this is really working. And so this, when we are in the ER rut, we really need to slow down, take a break, and then look at what we've created. Again, it's kind of, maybe we're one of those people who just keeps like, it's not quite perfect yet, right? We keep picking at it and pick something and just put it out there. Just put it out there. Minimum viable product, launch it. Just ship it, right? And then take in feedback and iterate on that feedback. So for the DO rut, just do it. For the ER rut, just ship it. Now, everyone has a zone. Earlier, we were talking about your zone of genius. We have a comfort zone, a challenge zone, and a sticky spot. And from this, I'm actually just going to read a little bit from Spark Genius because I think it'll really help you to understand this best. So, the dreamer. If your comfort zone is dreaming, you love zoning out and letting your mind wander. Your nickname as a kid was probably Space Cadet, and your ideal vacation involves an off-grid cabin, a hammock, and an inspiring view. Your superpower is coming up with new ideas. The dreamer regularly comes up with 5 incredible, innovative, impactful ideas before breakfast. In fact, coming up with ideas is so easy for the dreamer that you often take your idea generating abilities for granted. You assume that others must come up with that many great ideas before breakfast too, and so you undervalue your superpower. Does this sound familiar to anyone? So, your Achilles heel is new shiny syndrome, as we discussed. You're so bombarded with shiny new ideas that it can be really hard to choose which one you want to focus on. And so you get surrounded by this kind of graveyard of half-finished projects. So your sticky spot is innovate. And if we look back at the chart, so we have innovate right here. So to decide what to do about that, you want to look across the chart to its exact opposite energy, which is celebrate. And so in order to move through that energy, you need to celebrate every little accomplishment. So as soon as you get something accomplished, you need to take a moment to acknowledge that and celebrate it, because otherwise you end up on this little hamster wheel where you never really know what's been accomplished and you never really acknowledge that. So that is the fix for your sticky spot dreamers in the crowd. So, sorry, just want to read what this says here. So dreamers thrive in contemplate and co-create, but they tend to lose steam when imagination meets reality in the innovate phase. In fact, they will often talk themselves out of pursuing their ideas once practical considerations come into the picture, and therefore never quite make it to generate. So the prescription is celebrate, but also collaborate and commit. The primary energy of dreaming is contemplate, and its opposite energy on the flow chart is collaborate. And what that means is that once you've identified an idea that will resonate with your ideal audience, commit to it and reach out to that audience and collaborate with them, invite them into your process. You do not have to do everything alone. In fact, I think that is a recipe for disaster, especially for the dreamer. The dreamer, like I said, very happy in your little cabin all by yourself, but that is not the best way for you to stay in your creative flow. The best way for you to stay in your creative flow is co-working, is working with other creatives. So does anyone out there feel like that was me? Like that, I'm the dreamer. Yeah. Okay. So I really prescribe to you, find a group that you can show up to and stay accountable to showing up to regularly. I have a Creative Flow co-working club. Maybe you have a writer's circle or a women's circle, but something that you can commit to showing up to. And just show up. Even if you're in a crappy mood, even if the energy is just totally off, just show up and just, quietly watch. That is the fix for the dreamer. The organizer. So if your comfort zone is organizing, you enjoy planning activities as much as, if not more than, actually taking part in them. You love a well-crafted spreadsheet, making a list and checking it twice, and gains of strategy. Your ideal vacation is a guided tour with a well laid out itinerary. Your superpower is marrying big pictures to minute details. The organizer has this remarkable ability to climb to the highest tree in the forest and take in the shape of the whole and then map out that tree, that forest tree by tree. Organizers are amazing at that. Their Achilles heel is overthinking. So, because they are so good at seeing connections, organizers can get stuck in an endless loop of connecting disparate ideas and people to each other. And they lose sight of the overarching goals of the project and fall behind on production. The sticky spot here is the innovate to generate transition. Organizers thrive in innovation energy, but like the dreamer, they must learn to bridge that gap into generate in order to see their beautiful plans come to full fruition. So the prescription here is to get out of your headspace and into your heart space. The organizer is so good up here in the head space, but you have to marry that back down to the heart space. So again, celebrate is a really key to that. Make sure you are enjoying your process. Make sure you're making your process enjoyable, joyful, fun, playful, right? Really get into the playfulness of making a big mess and really embrace that mess and enjoy that mess. Anyone here feel like they are the organizer? Does that resonate with them? Okay, well then we'll move right on. So the executor. If your comfort zone is execution, you are a master of improvisation. You can talk a blue streak and love nothing more than holding court over a rapt audience. Your ideal vacation is a retreat where you are the main attraction. Superpower, prolific AF. You might notice behind me, I create a lot of stuff. So the executor creates content like other people binge watch TV shows. They are usually working on several projects simultaneously and have no problem producing plenty of material for each one, but their Achilles heel is headless chicken syndrome. They are constantly spinning so many plates simultaneously that they tend to lose sight of which plates were the most important ones to keep in the air and why. Prone to busy work and stress addiction, they have trouble relaxing and often have a stack of unfinished projects looming over them, not knowing which to prioritize. So the sticky spot here is that generate to collaborate transition. Again, we really need to lean into inviting others into the process and thinking about ahead of time before you create something, just having a conversation with the ideal audience for this thing and saying, hey, do you even want this? Is this something you could use? And just having a conversation. I like to say all coin comes from conversation. So just reach out and have a casual conversation about something before you invest a bunch of time and energy in creating it. Does anyone out there feel like I am the executor? That was me. Okay. Moving on to the reviser then. Sometimes we have a sometimes. Yeah, sometimes me too. Like all of these are sometimes for me. I definitely, we all go through the cycle, right? And sometimes we find ourselves stuck in different points of the cycle. So absolutely. The reviser. The reviser is an avid problem solver. You love transforming things and people into the best possible versions of themselves. A lot of coaches fall into the reviser category. Your ideal vacation is a volunteer project with a massive impact, like helping rebuild a beautiful tropical village or a centuries-old landmark after a natural disaster. Your superpower is bringing out the best. You can wave your magic wand and turn something so-so into a veritable work of art. You're especially good at repairing and restoring once beautiful things to their former glory, and even at renovating them into something even more amazing. But your Achilles heel, my dear, is perfectionism. You have a tendency to think that it has to be perfect in order to be done. Perfect, as we know, is the enemy of done. So the reviser often struggles to know when they've done enough and when it is time to release their creations and move on. Their sticky spot is iterate. And so if we look across the chart from iterate, we find co-create. So this is the channeling energy. This is where we need to allow ourselves to just tap into the energy that wants our attention and allow that to channel through us. The reviser often falls into the efficiency trap of trying to adapt existing material to the current project rather than starting from scratch and trusting that new stuff, good stuff will come. They fall into this trap of believing like, oh, I've created everything that I'm going to create. I've already got something that's pretty good, so I'm just going to work on that, rather than trusting that you have so much in there that is dying to come through, that is dying to come out. And if you don't give it an opportunity by finishing off what is, what you've got and releasing it, you won't get the chance. So again, this comes back to what we were talking about earlier, that we need to create space, and that requires release, cutting ties. And so sometimes we just have to decide, okay, I'm done, ship it, get it out there into the world. The key to transitioning out of revising so that the cycle can be closed out and begin a new cycle begun is to set clear goals and take the time to celebrate them as soon as they're reached. So I've got a ton of activities in here to help you with that. But one I'd really like to just try out right now is, as we were talking about earlier, that scribble and babble. So I would love, if you are up for it, for you to take a notebook right now. If you've been taking notes, that's fantastic. We'll get to a new page because you don't want to scribble over something that you've already written. And so what we're going to do, I'm going to mute because otherwise we'll just all be like talking at each other. We're just going to scribble and talk out loud about the prompt that I'm going to give you to start with is what I really mean to say is. So we're trying to really get to the core of our message to our ideal audience, what you want them to know or understand. And so we're going to start with what I really mean to say is, and we're just going to keep talking until we find something that feels like, aha, that was a golden apple. And then we will share our golden apple with each other. Okay, we all got it? All right, cool. Let's do it. No rush, but whenever you're ready, you can share in the chat what you discovered. Beautiful. I want to read some of these out loud. They're so wonderful. I discovered I like this and need more time. Yes, Sage, please continue after we go off of this. Please continue. This is a beautiful exercise that you can do any old time. It also leads beautifully into a walk and talk. So if you get an idea, then you can go for a walk and start just digging down a little bit deeper on like, what is that idea? What is this about? And expanding on it. I am here. I need you to listen to me and help me no matter what phase I'm in. I feel like I just got a message straight from your inner child, Maya. Like Amael just sent us a little message of like, help.
Yes, exactly.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Piper, what I really mean to say is the people who feel othered are welcome here. Oh, gorgeous. Yes, I love that. What I really mean to say is I get hung up on details, which is why it's so hard to finish things. I hate tedium. Girl, I feel you so hard. I am not a repetitive detailed person. I hate that, the tedium of like having to do the same thing. This is why I always really, really encourage you all to only do what only you can do and invite others to help you into your process. Because there are people out there who are so good with those details and don't mind that tedium at all. They actually enjoy that stuff. I know it blows my mind to think about it, but they exist and you can work with them and trade with them and exchange with them. What I really mean to say is that you are all powerful creators and your process is perfect for you. Yes, yes. I discovered that it is simple and we need each other to see that for ourselves. Absolutely. After harvesting this apple, I said, really, Elizabeth? Is that it? I do that all the time. Is it that simple? Yeah, it's that freaking simple. It's just that. What I really mean to say is that I am enough and I can do this and I got this. Yes, girl. Yes. You are enough. You do enough. You have enough. You bring enough. You give enough. You are enough. Absolutely. You've got this. It is okay to have an off day and it's okay not to be productive every day. Okay. I hate the word productive. You know this about me, some of you. I love the word processative because the thing about productive is that it's focused on product. We are focused on what did I accomplish physically? What can I hold in my hand that is a result? And that is not the most powerful result. And it will not get you to the most powerful result to focus that energy there. So process, yes. So when you are processative, it means you showed up for your process today. And whatever that process looked like, that's what you needed today. Okay. So giving yourself that grace and giving yourself that the ability and the permission to celebrate whatever happened today, whatever that looked like. Maybe you needed to cry for an hour today. Maybe that was your process today because you had some emotions that needed some processing and some sorting through. And there's no way that you would have been able to get to what happened next if you didn't spend an hour crying flat face down on your bed today. So that maybe doesn't feel productive in the sense that nothing was actually produced at the end of that except like a stain on your bed from your mascara, but you were in your process and you showed up so fully for your process that you are now able to easily flow into the next insight. I've been thinking a lot about how easy it is for those who aren't doing the doing to criticize the people who are doing the doing. Word, girl, right? If you are showing up and doing it, like this is why I've stepped off of judgment so much. Like of my own stuff and of anybody else's stuff. They are all in their process, right? Unless someone is specifically reaching out and asking me for critical feedback, for the most part, what I'm going to give them, I ask the 3 magic questions. What pops? What questions do you have? And how did it make you feel? And that's the feedback that I offer, unless someone specifically says to me, I know there's something wrong with it. Help me figure out what it is. Then I'm in problem solving mode. But for the most part, we can just lift each other up as creatives. We don't have to do this thing where we're like, oh, it could have been better. Like, you know what? I'm out here doing a thing. Let's just honor that bravery to be in this process in the first place. Creativity takes so much guts. Being authentic and putting our authentic creations out there, man, it takes a lot of bravery. So I just want to honor all of you just for showing up here today and for honoring your creativity and wanting to go deeper with that. Bless all of you for that. Yes. Okay. So the 3 magic questions. I'm going to go ahead and put these in the chat. I would love for anyone to come off of mute and share any a big takeaway that you have from today while I write that in the chat.
I think instead of using the word productive and instead use processive. Is that right?
I say processative, but processative, whatever
Yeah, I love that.
feels good in your mouth.
I think that it's going to change a lot. Thank you.
Awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. If you walk away with nothing else today, that is the perfect thing to walk away with. Be processative.
Yes.
Screw productive. I like the simplicity of how to help the dreamer who is stuck. This stuff is not that complicated. It's pretty simple stuff. We just have to embrace the simplicity and embrace just the whole thing is showing up. This is the whole thing. Just show up, bring your authentic energy, and just be there fully.
Simple
I
doesn't
wanna
always
share
mean easy.
What was that, Maya?
Oh, thanks. Yeah, and I would also love, Sage, to hear what you were saying. I was just saying that I have a sense from being here and listening today that like I have enough, I am enough, I have everything I need. And circling back to what Elizabeth said, like I also sometimes need others to help like point me to it, but that's okay. Like I have everything I need.
Yes, we all have everything we need. We just have to be open to it and ask for help when we need it. Reach out for the help when we need it. Simple doesn't always mean easy. So true, Sage. We are at time, so I just want to honor that. If anyone needs to go, please do. Thank you so much for joining us, but I will stay here for Q&A if anyone has more questions or wants to share more. Marilee, I saw that you raised your hand.
Well, I'm thinking a lot about community. A lot of the things that you're directing us to are co-collaboration or co-creativity. Here we are in a group of sharing around these things. And in Buddhism, they talk about the Dharma, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And the Sangha is the community and how much we learn from being in community. And that's what I was writing about. Atelier, it's sort of like fashion designers have this whole group of people that help them bring their dreams to life.
Yes,
And
the French
maybe-
way of like the salon, the atelier. This is
and
like,
maybe we all need that in some sense to, maybe there's people who don't need that, but I certainly have learned that I seem to need that.
I haven't met anyone who doesn't need that. Maybe they don't think they need that. They need that. We all need that. And here's the beauty of the DOER cycle. It works in communities as well. Communities go through DOER cycles together as well. And so when you're creating as a community, you can look at this process within the community as well. Like we need to have a shared vision at the beginning, right? We need to daydream together and think about what's possible. What could we create as a community? We need to get together and organize, and then we need to execute together. And then we need to look at like, what did we do? How did that go? What are we going to do the same and differently next time? We need to take a moment to celebrate that, like, hey, we did a thing together, and then release that, let it go, let go of any pettiness or whatever is, you know, and just move into a brand new cycle. Works for relationships, it works for communities, because it's a natural cycle.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much for joining. Peace and blessings be upon you. Badass Tay, the badass in me, recognizes the badass in you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Audrian. Thank you all for coming. Everybody, I'll share the recording and I'll see you all in one place or another. Make sure, thank you, Teresa. I shared Audrian's website in the email to the campers today, but make sure you reach out to her if you have any follow-up questions. And please, please, please buy the book, leave a review. And on her social media, you can grab a visual of that chart that she has held up so many times too. So
Yes, you can get a PDF download on the website.
there you go.
Cheers.
Thank you.